I was born in a small town, which is 2 hours away from the nearest big city. I guess you could call it the countryside. I was raised by a single mom, whose mother was one too. So I lived with my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother. In this particular area, stories and folklore about creatures and evil spirits from the forest were the main conversation topic in any family gathering, as there are vast green areas full of forests that are only lit by the moon at nights. And being raised in a place where this is really common, you kind of lose the fear of such stories but enjoy telling them to others and sometimes even coming up with your own. So, when I told my friends about the first encounter, they just thought I invented the whole thing. But it was real. This was around 2001, and it was the first encounter. I was 7 at the time. My mother and I were watching a movie, as usual on the weekends. My grandmother was asleep, and my aunt wasn't going to be home for at least another week. She's an actress, so this was a usual thing. She'd be in the city doing a great job acting in highly acclaimed national plays. Or so I thought. From where I was sitting, I could see the door to my aunt's room, which was open. I was watching the movie, really enjoying it, and so into it that seeing my aunt's face smiling at me and signing to come into her room made me suddenly jump from my mother's arms and joyfully begin to walk towards that room to greet her and to ask her how the play had been. I was really happy to see my aunt. But when my mother asked me where I was going and I looked at her, I realized that my aunt being there didn't make any sense. I didn't see her arrive at the house, and supposedly, she was doing the play in that very moment. So I looked back at the room, and there was this tall, dark figure smiling at me from inside. I was so scared that I ran to my mother, telling her to get us out of there immediately. I was so desperate that I woke Granny with my screaming. I told them what I had seen, and they checked the entire house for signs of a break-in or something, but everything was normal. Doors locked, windows locked, the dog wasn't nervous at all, so no signs of anybody else. I remember that as clear as water because I got a little traumatized to see that. Why was it signaling me to come inside the room? Also, his skin was really weird, sepia-toned. But it was kind of like when you're watching TV and that interference comes out and you see these black and white shapes. Anyway, I never saw that thing again. At least, not for a long time. This was around 2007, and I really couldn't sleep. I think I was 13. Yeah. My mom and I had moved to a new home, and it was a really old house, but it was nice, as it was warm in the winter and fresh in the summer. There were several odd things about that house. Like, you'd hear strange noises and see things in the dark, but you would never be certain that if what you saw was a real thing or if something was normal. It wasn't scary at all, but it made you think about it. I remember that on a specific week I couldn't sleep well at night. I'd feel as if I had closed my eyes for a minute, and when I look at the clock, I'd realize it was about time to wake up, feeling as if I hadn't slept at all. One of those days, I was just laying on my bed looking at the ceiling, when gradually, very slowly, the room began to appear as if it was some sort of light inside it. It was a silver light, but it didn't really seem to come out of anywhere. It was as if the light came from everywhere, but it was really faint nevertheless. It looked pretty, and I was feeling at peace, wondering why everything was glowing like that. I thought I was dreaming. But then I felt an unsettling presence in the room with me. I didn't know why. I looked around the room but couldn't see anything abnormal. I turned myself to the wall beside me but didn't feel comfortable, so I turned back to my previous position, looking at the ceiling. Then I saw it. A thin figure at the other end of my bed. The moment my eyes saw it, I became completely paralyzed, unable to move or speak. The thing then moved from there to my side, doing very exaggerated movements and very close to me, but not touching me. It didn't have visible eyes, and its skin was absolutely black, like a silhouette. It looked really similar to the one I saw when I was 7, but no weird TV skin. The last thing I remember from that night was that his face was really, really close to mine, and that I was very, very scared. This next encounter was about 2 weeks ago, and I'm 23 now, living with a friend in the big city. I came here from home to study and to have a professional degree, as I'd be the first one in my small family to have one. Everything is going absolutely great. I have a loving boyfriend that lives in the city too. All is well. 2 weeks ago, on a Friday night, my boyfriend came to stay the night with me. We cooked a delicious dinner, had amazing times of conversation with my friend and her boyfriend, and we all went to bed early since we were going to be up early the next day to go sightseeing in the city. I was cuddling him, and we fell asleep very quickly. As per usual, when I sleep with him, I began dreaming about us. In my dream, we were traveling by the country and were looking to rent a cabin to stay the night. And there was this wonderful gentleman that was the owner of many cabins in the woods and decided to lend us a hand. He told me he knew exactly what cabin was perfect for us and took us there, said goodnight, smiled at us, put on his hat, and left. My boyfriend and I went to bed then. But something was wrong. There was someone knocking at the door. It was the owner and said that it was urgent. I woke up from my dream only to find that there was an actual person outside the apartment knocking at the door. I found it weird how something from the real world affected my dream and went on to walk towards the door. We don't have a peephole, so I shouted, "Who's this?" to no response. I wasn't just going to open the door, so I shouted, "Who's this?" again, a little louder. "Hey, it's me, let me in." It was my friend's voice. He had probably went out and left the keys inside or something, so I opened the door. It wasn't my friend. It was the guy from my dream. The owner of the cabin. He had his hat on. He was dressed all black and wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the ground, but I knew it was him. Suddenly, I'm in my bed, looking at him, standing on my chest. I couldn't breathe or move. It's like I was teleported back to bed. My boyfriend was right beside me, but I couldn't wake him up. And then I realized I can breathe a little and began doing it as fast as I could. That woke my boyfriend, and as soon as he turned to me, the man disappeared. He just vanished. I told him what happened, but he never told me I left the bed. So, was it all just a bad dream? I haven't told the whole story to anyone yet, except for you guys. And I don't know the meaning of these encounters, but I'm still scared, and it's very hard for me to sleep without thinking about these guys. To me, every time one of them appeared, they made me feel good and safe first, before revealing themselves, only to show how scary they can be. I can only hope they don't try to deceive me, because I will fall into their trap again. It may be soon or not, but of something I'm certain. I won't be prepared.